Hello, everybody. It's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here, and we have reached yet another Friday. So, of course, you know what that means. I have yet another Film Rec Friday ready for everybody out there. Um, so, we are already just a few days away from Valentine's Day. I don't know how that managed to creep up on me, but it did. So, in keeping with the spirit of the season, I thought let's put together a little list of romantic films, of course, all available totally for free with your Milan-Berlin library card on our 3 digital services. Those are, of course, CleveNet's Overdrive, Hoopla Digital, and Canopy. These romantic films all kind of run the gamut. Some are a little bit more rom-com styled, a couple are much more dramatic, but all of them definitely have a very strong thread of romance through them. And, at the end of the day, if you're looking for a romantic movie, I think one of these should definitely hit the spot. So, without any further ado, I want to go ahead and jump into those recs. So please keep watching and enjoy. All right, my first 2 recommendations, as always, come from CleveNet's Overdrive, and the first of those is for an adorably quirky little movie called Paper Heart. Now, Paper Heart is definitely a romantic comedy. It's designed to look and feel like a documentary, but it is not. And it sort of follows the journey of this actress comic whose real name in real life is also Charlene Yee. And she teams up with a director friend to film a documentary about true love. She and this team start traveling around the country and they interview, new couples and old couples, young children, senior citizens, always talking about love and romance and what it means. And you definitely get kind of like those When Harry Met Sally vibes, like when they were talking to all of the older couples who'd been married for years and years and years. But surprisingly, like the little moments where she's talking to the kids are so fantastically candid. It definitely feels as though they really are making a little bit of a documentary, and I love that sort of, I guess, fuzzy line between reality and fiction. Anyway, at a certain point, she ends up meeting a fellow actor played by Michael Cera, who plays a character named Michael Cera, and they start to fall in love themselves. Now, Charlene from the beginning has been very, very skeptical about the project, about what love is, about if love exists. So watching them fall in love is really, it's really cute. She's terribly awkward, like terribly awkward. And that's coming from someone who, like, definitely could understand like the awkwardness between first meeting somebody, but it's just on a whole other level, and it's really, really heartwarming. I love that about this movie. A lot of times those awkward moments in films can give you like secondhand embarrassment, but I don't know, I just didn't get that vibe from this film at all. And again, it really knows how to blur that line between reality and fiction. It legitimately feels like a documentary, and when Charlene's character falls in love with Michael's character, the team decides to actively make that part of the documentary. So, you're seeing a real-time romance, which it obviously isn't, but it's still so cute. I missed this movie when it first came out, which I think was like 2009 or 2010, but I'm so glad that I went back and watched it now, because it really did make me laugh out loud in a lot of spots. Like I said, the interviews are so entertaining, especially the interviews with kids who are so frank, and you really can't even tell. Maybe they really did just randomly interview kids in different areas, because, like, the things that they say, it feels very organic. Like, it feels like something that, like, a 10-year-old would say about love. Like, yeah, I have a girlfriend and all of the... it's very, very funny and very charming. Um, as mentioned, there are tons of like very legit feeling awkward first moments. There are a ton of moments where you 100% feel for Charlene. She's so uncomfortable with the situation she finds herself in, but it feels like very natural to watch. Like it doesn't feel at all as if she's playing a role. It really does feel like a documentary, and I think that's part of what I enjoyed so much. It at no point does it feel like they're just sort of they're putting in a vague performance, because I feel that can happen with a lot of movies that have this sort of meta style vibe going on. Anyway, if you're looking for something adorably charming, that is sure to make you smile, that sort of centers around a adorkable first love, definitely check out Paper Heart. It really is a sweet, sweet romantic comedy. And I think you'll enjoy it. So, Paper Heart, available on CleveNet Overdrive. My second rom-com from CleveNet is a movie that I did not expect to enjoy as much as I did. It's from this. It's a British film called I Give It a Year, with a very, very strong cast of performers. You've got these two people who sort of met very quickly, fell in love ridiculously quickly, get married, and everyone is sort of like very skeptical of how this relationship could possibly last. Thus, the I Give It a Year uh, title. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about it is these two, very much throughout the entire movie, really are trying to make this marriage work. They 100% are dedicated to proving all the naysayers wrong. The question is, should they be trying to prove the naysayers wrong? And it results in a movie that's genuinely funny. It's not just a romantic comedy, it's a comedy with romance in it. And, throughout it, there are unexpected twists and turns. It is one of the more unpredictable rom-coms I've ever watched. And I really liked that. Sometimes I'm in the mood for just like happily ever after, and that's what I want. And I just want something really straightforward, Hallmark style, point A to point B kind of romance. But this is 100% not that. And like I said, it's genuinely hilarious in a lot of moments. As with every week, I always have the trailers in the description. Watch the trailer. Even in the trailer, like, there are a couple laugh out loud moments where I literally laughed out loud. Not this weird figurative literally, but like actually laughed out loud. So, I mean, if you're looking for something really funny that definitely explores romance, that definitely explores a relationship, and all of the twists and turns that can go with it, check out I Give It a Year. It is a totally unexpected rom-com, or at least it was for me. And I had a ton of fun watching it. So I Give It a Year on CleveNet. Highly recommended. All right, as usual, my second set of recommendations all come from Hoopla Digital, and the first of those recs is a fairly predictable but wonderfully charming romantic comedy called New in Town. Now, New in Town is a sweet romance that follows this high-powered executive who is originally based in Miami. She is very career-driven. She definitely is more of a workplace person than a home life person. She loves all of the finer things in life. She loves that her job can get her those finer things. She's definitely very focused on those kinds of objectives. She ends up getting assigned to this temporary position in the middle of nowhere, like a very quaint little town, kind of stuck out in rural wherever, uh, just the polar opposite of Miami. And she's like the definition of fish out of water. She isn't used to the kind of people she meets in this small town. She's not used to the work life pace. She's definitely not used to people who put a higher priority on home life. She's completely out of her element. And watching that journey of her going from, this thing that she's known and lived and loved her whole life, and seeing her sort of struggle to find the meaning of how this new existence is way more entertaining than I thought it would be. Like, and again, this is not a super unpredictable romantic comedy. This is definitely more along your standard veins, but it's just done very, very, very well. Renee Zellweger plays Lucy Hill, the main character, who is your fish out of water, and her love interest is played by Harry Connick Jr., and they have excellent chemistry together. The only other thing I think I've seen Connick Jr. in is Hope Floats, and he was very good with Sandra Bullock in that, so I don't know why I really had any misgivings going in, but I did not expect to find as charming a film as I did. And you've got amazing performances by the rest of the cast. The small town is ridiculously fun to exist in as a viewer. Obviously, coming from a small town myself, I just found a lot of things very relatable, and it's enjoyable to see things like that on screen. At least I've always found that's very enjoyable to see things like that. So anyway, she has this temporary assignment. She's trying to figure out how to exist with this new lifestyle. She has this goal of getting a promotion from this temporary assignment. If she can succeed here, it'll show the higher ups that she definitely has what it takes to have even more under her belt. But, as the movie goes along, she really evolves into someone who loves this community that she finds herself in. She loves the people, she loves the job, the workplace. So, she has that sort of struggle. And, I think that's almost as much a part of the movie as the whole romantic element. But again, strongly recommended. It was a lot of fun, predictable, but thoroughly enjoyable. So if you're looking for something really sweet that is as much about the heroine as it is about the romance, please check out New in Town, available on Hoopla Digital. Okay, my second recommendation from Hoopla is for a movie that is definitely not what I would label as a romantic comedy, definitely more of a romantic drama, and it sort of does an exceptional job of being more than a romantic film. I would say this film is as much about grief and how people move on from it as it is romance or love or anything like that. It stars William Hurt, Kathleen Turner, and Gina Davis, and all three put in extraordinary, nuanced performances. William Hurt, I've been a huge fan for literally decades, and Kathleen Turner, of course, is always amazing, but this one, Gina Davis, is really like this shining beacon. She's absolutely wonderful in this, and if you're looking for a film that has incredibly strong performances and a really, really well done script, this is definitely the pick for you. Macon, played by William Hurt, and his wife, Sarah, they, at the very beginning of the movie, are dealing with something absolutely terrible. They lose their son very unexpectedly. And we see the disillusion of their marriage. Things can't continue and things really fall apart for them. And It's fascinating because it feels it's a movie from the 80s, but it feels just as pertinent today as it would have then. It doesn't feel dated at all. Um, like the emotional quality within all of these characters is certainly something that you would feel or see in a film that was made yesterday. Um, he ends up in there're just a lot of circumstances and things happen and they're funny, so it's not just sadness, grief, drama. There are legitimately funny moments in this film, so you get a lot of highs and lows. um he ends up meeting Muriel, Gina Davis's character, who essentially is sort of like not a housekeeper but just sort of like a helper, an assistant for him. And she's just the antithesis of everything that his wife is. Uh, she's kind of wacky and zany and funny, and, she's not really proper, or, she's not super organized. She's just a free spirit. And he is made so uncomfortable, especially at first, by her behavior. It's just something totally out of his norm. Even before his marriage fell apart, like that was just not the way people reacted or behaved around him. So watching him sort of interact with her and sort of figure out how to interact with someone in general like that is actually quite amusing and funny. Um, and through this new relationship, sort of starts to move on from his grief. uh, and at the same time, you're discovering that his ex-wife is also figuring out how to move on from her own. It feels very honest in a lot of ways, not like some overblown depiction of what this kind of situation would be, but a very understandable and relatable one. So if you're looking for a movie that is, you know, really believable with extraordinary performances, make sure you check out The Accidental Tourist. It's a quiet film. It's not, there's nothing like crazy or big happening. It's all about these little moments, but they're moving and they're definitely entertaining. So make sure you check it out. Accidental Tourist on Hoopla. My very last two recommendations for this week both, of course, come from our Canopy service, and the first of those is for a film called Labor Day, which is an adaptation of the novel by Joyce Maynard, an author we love here at the library. She did come visit us a couple years ago. And this one is definitely a romantic drama, but it's one that pulls you in a lot of different directions. It's not just about the romance, and there are definitely three main characters in this. You have Adele, played by Kate Winslet, you have Frank, played by Josh Brolin, and then you have Adele's son, Henry Wheeler, played by Gatlin Griffith. And those three are the heart and soul of this movie. And the relationships between all three of them are really sort of the pivotal parts of this storyline. So you do, of course, have um, a romantic storyline, but you also have a really beautiful sort of father-son relationship that develops, and of course you've got the mother-son relationship between Adele and Henry as well, which is maybe even more central to this movie than anything else. But yeah, it's really beautifully done. The story itself is one that really grips you right away. Adele is a single mother in the late 80s, sort of in the middle of nowhere, like a small, quiet town. Um, she has a lot of issues. She was left by her husband, and it's definitely sort of left her untethered a little bit. She suffers from anxiety. She does not do well in crowds or difficult situations. She is definitely a bit of a recluse. And Henry, her child, who's 13, I want to say, he internalizes all of that. He feels all of that, and he feels very much responsible for her. He is there for her as much as humanly possible, and he's as much a caretaker for her in some ways as she is for him. And it's both beautiful and a little bit sad the way that they depend so strongly on one another. They're like this little boat teetering all by itself on an ocean. This and there's nothing to really keep them afloat aside from one another. And then this one day they run into this guy named Frank, and things just suddenly shift in their lives. I'm trying to think of a good way to describe this movie without giving away too much. Um, but I think the best way to explain it is there's way more going on with Frank than what it seems, especially in the initial moments that we meet him. Uh, there, and we eventually start to really see who Frank is as a character and how he is able to help both Adele and Henry, and how Adele and Henry are able to help him. And like I said, it's about the relationships between all three of these characters, and watching all three of these characters sort of grow and shift as people. It's just a lovely, lovely film. If you're looking for something that if you're looking for a romance that is about so much more than just that, if you're looking for a story about a family, if you're looking for a story about mothers and about fathers and sons and, relationships that really, really develop between those kinds of people, please, please, please check out Labor Day. It's an absolutely wonderful film to and it was one that I had not expected to enjoy as much as I did. So please, again, Labor Day, available on Canopy. Excellent movie. And my final pick for the week is probably my favorite of all of them. And it's called Delicacy. This one is a French film, so yes, there are subtitles. But as I always say, I don't pick these simply because I like foreign films. I pick them because I genuinely love them. And I strongly urge people who, even if you're not a subtitle person, to please check these out. Delicacy is a wonderful, wonderful romance that is also, like some of the other titles I talked about so much more than just the relationship between the main character and her love interest. It's about, moving on from difficult situations. It's about grief. It's about self-confidence. It's about the way the world looks at people. And it, it was just a wonderful, wonderful, small but meaningful film. Delicacy stars Audrey Tautou, who is one of my favorite actresses. She was the main character in Amélie. She plays Natalie, who is this very successful Parisian businesswoman. She is in the perfect marriage. She absolutely adores her life, and then tragedy strikes, and she finds herself widowed at a young age, and her world is just completely different from one day to the next. I mean, it's just, and she has one of those faces that are so expressive. You feel everything that she feels. It's all so perfectly telegraphed. And, you know, watching grief on screen is an interesting thing. Some actors are very, very good at portraying it, and some just, it's not that they're necessarily bad at it, it's just, it's such a complex emotion, right? But just her face is enough to really get that expressiveness across. Anyway, she decides to purely like focus in on work and tries to bury herself and her grief in that. And suddenly, as time goes by, she just randomly, it's not even random, but it's not random, but it is. She ends up involved with this guy who is pretty much the opposite of her former husband. He's not, by normal standards, considered particularly handsome. You know he's not wealthy, he's not cultured, he's not um educated. He's just this guy that she meets, but he suddenly makes her life much less gray. And watching her try and figure out what it is about him, watching her try to explain this completely different guy to all of her friends and family, it's definitely an interesting journey. There are a lot of like very funny moments. There are a lot of awkward moments. There are a lot of sad moments in this. I mean, the beginning where you're watching her grieve, like it is definitely sad. But you get those high points and those low points. You get those moments that will make you laugh out loud. You get a really rounded experience as you're watching. And I love that it really takes a stance on what society says about what you're supposed to want, who you're supposed to want, what's beautiful, what's not, what is educated, what's not, what is of value and what is not. Um, so yeah, I really loved this film, and I think if you're looking for a romance film that is definitely off the beaten path, one with a male lead as far from a Hugh Grant type as humanly possible, um, and a female lead who is really charming and really wonderful without being super stereotypical, please check out Delicacy. It's a French language film with English subtitles, and it is absolutely wonderful. It is available on Canopy. You 100% will not regret it. Excellent, excellent film. So, with that, my week of romantic film recommendations is over. Um, as always, if you have a recommendation that you would like for people to check out, please, please, please comment below. Let us know. I'm always looking for movie recs, so I would love to hear from you. Additionally, if you have any recommendations for future themes, please comment and let me know what you have there as well. Always looking for new themes. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and wish everybody a very happy weekend. And I will be back next Friday with yet another Film Rec Friday. So please enjoy your week until then. And with that, I will see you next time. Bye.